let's jump right into the form, okay? So the first movement, we're going to start with our feet together and just gripping the sword like this. In fact, Jin refers to this as 我道式, gripping the sword posture. And you're just standing like this, swords at 45. So he does point out, it's interesting, he makes note that it's not hanging down like this. So it's here, but it's not a ready position, so to speak. You might consider this sort of at ease position. He often uses, being a military man, military sort of technology. So if we're standing here, feet parallel like this. Very simple. So don't let it droop all the way down. Hold the sword up a little bit. And our first movement, 预备式, is up like this and bring the sword up. So we're going to turn the foot, feet are together, going to turn on the heel, going to turn your foot out 45 degrees, and as you do, you bring the sword up, right? So very simply here, and this is 预备式, or preparation, up here like this. So very simple. My waist is to the cardinal direction. I'm going to turn my waist to the diagonal, and as I do, I'm also rotating my right foot on the heel and turning to the side. So very simple, right? Easy movement, turn. So it's from gripping the Dao, 我道, I should say 我道式, to 预备式, preparation. Now, I think this is an important move. I think there's a tendency, I believe, most forms have some sort of stance, if you will, at the beginning, kind of an at attention stance. So this is at attention. Jin in his manual says this is kind of like when you shoulder arms. So if you have your rifle and you bump, bump, put your rifle up, bump, you come to attention. If you had your rifle just hanging, butt resting on the ground, holding it, and the officer comes and says, at attention, you have to bump, bump, and be at attention, ready to go. He equates this position to that. But also he talks about something I think is important, and it's because it's really how you're beginning the form, that this is, you're sort of showing your spirit, sort of turning on, if you will. If you're here, okay, I got my weapon, I'm relaxed. I can't be in a constant state of ready to go. But once I go here, everything comes alive. So I would probably tend to inhale here. He doesn't mention that, but I would say here is that I'm coming alive, that I'm turning on. So I'm going from a state of, okay, this is a relaxed state. I'm just holding my sword, holding my weapon, to here like this. If I might make a modern equivalent, I'd say if you had a pistol in a holster, and if your hand's just resting there, resting on your belt, okay, you're not in. But if you immediately rest your hand on your pistol, you haven't drawn it yet, but you're getting ready. Remember, the name of this movement is 预备式, preparation. So I'm preparing. The first thing is to prepare. So just don't short this out. Just go from here. And I think this is good practice because you go, especially in a martial sense, if I'm very nonchalant and I'm relaxed, I'm sort of at ease, if you will, and then everything is on, ready to go. So it's a useful thing to find in your practice, to put into your practice, to go from, yeah, I'm just relaxed, I'm just here, to I'm ready to go. Okay? The next movement, remember, so it's important to notice you've turned this foot out. So your feet are parallel. You've rotated your right foot to the diagonal. Then you're going to step back, 1, 2, and take a stance and sink in here. Don't take too long of a step because you're going to need to step with that left foot again. So your feet are together, rotate on the heel, and then step back, and he says stomp, okay? So that's a stomp supposedly to scare the enemy. I think that's more for martial, what would you call that? Esprit de corps. So up, and as you bring the sword up, you rotate on the heel, step back with the right, stomp, little step forward with the left. All right, and of course, we're going to maintain our getaway room there. Okay, so we're here, feet are parallel, swords at 45 degrees, turn the waist, I'm turning on the right heel, up, and then back. All right, and here, turn, stomp that foot down, bum, small step here. Be careful for taking a big step, because we're going to need to take another step there. So if you get yourself too stretched out, you won't have room for your step. So we'll look at it from the rear view here. Swords at the 45 rate. Don't let that droop down. Eyes and head are up. And turn on the heel. Step back with the right. Stomping, small step forward with the left. And so now you're really ready to go here, right? There. Holding, gripping your Dao. Turn on the heel. Step back, stomping with the right. Small step forward with the left. And I'm nice and sunk in my legs, ready to go here. Okay, ready? Eyes and head up. Turn on the heel. Step back. Sink in. Okay. Ready? Just do a bunch. These are simple moves, but we want to make sure you really get them down. Turn right as you turn here. Rotate on the heel. Boom. Boom. Stomp back with that right. A little step up with the left. Nice and sunk. Right? And I'm holding the sword here in two hands, blade upright. Okay? Ready? And one. Stomp and ready. And here. Remember, blades, don't let it droop down. Turn on the heel. 1, 2. Ready? Turn on the heel, stomp, and then ready. Okay. So the stomp is kind of interesting. It's a little bit funny that he says in the manual that's to scare the enemy or startle the enemy. It's hard to imagine that in the midst of battle, a soldier running forward with a rifle with a bayonet and you stomp your foot on the ground and that somehow that's going to really startle him and catch him off guard so you can do something, you can cut him somehow. I don't think you take that literally. I think it's more something that you see in a lot of Qing period military forms as well, where you're moving back and forth, same sort of thing, back and forth on those roads, and when you get to one end, there's usually a cut, and they say, and turn and make a shout, rah, like that. Then it's more for the esprit de corps, more for the, building up your spirit. I mean, after all, think about what you're going to do. You've got this sword, and you're going to go out and face a guy who's going to try to stab you repeatedly with a bayonet, running at you. So that's something obviously is going to take a real nerve to do, and sort of to build that up and to build the camaraderie and that sense of strength as a unit. I think it's more of that. And you can imagine if you're in a training hall or in a field, and everybody's together, maybe 50 men together, and they rotate out and they all go, boom, and stamp down together. That big crash of sound is, encouraging to all the troops, all right? So the other thing that's interesting here, if we think about this, is as we turn, what kind of ready position is this, all right? So when I turn, stomp, and I'm ready, what's the ready position I'm in? It's one that I would generally not use. Generally, if I have a two-handed sword or any single sword, I have it in front of me where I'm prepared to deflect or go in. Clearly here, this is more of an aggressive stance. And of course, remember, most people rifle, they're going to be right-handed, so left hand's in front, coming in, looking to thrust this way, right? And most soldiers are not going to be skilled martial artists. They're going to be just coming in, trying to thrust with the rifle. They're going to tend to come to the center. So if you think of it in terms of like the Dadao manual, and those older sort of manuals, I've really opened this door and I'm really setting it up. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have to cut in. I can, of course, and we see these movements, deflect this way. This form uses a lot of this gua, hanging deflection to hit it to the side. But here it's really saying, taking a really aggressive position. I'm not protecting myself, and I'm going to have to really aggressively come forward with a cut. Okay, and that's our next movement. So far we've had the grip the Dao or Warlord. Then we had Yu Bei Shi, and the next movement is going to be stepping into a P cut. Now I want to point out just real quickly, Jin does not use really typical sort of terminology. I think because it's such a short form, he just used a lot of different names to name each movement differently. I didn't give them any kind of usual sort of names like white crane, Cool's wings, or any of the sort of names that you typically find in Chinese martial arts. he's just calling each one by the name of a cut. He's not really using them in very standard or typical sort of way. So I'm going to use his terms, of course, it's his form, but those are not how I would or most people would use a lot of these terms. The P cut, yes, you'll see as we move forward, they don't really match up to how those names are typically applied, those basic cut terms. So first one is going to be our P cut. And so after we're gripping our Dao, right, turning, 1, 2, now we're in the preparation or ready position. We're going to take a small step forward with the left foot, stepping in and cutting down and across. And here's where you want to really pay attention. I'm stepping in, cutting down and across. Those of you who've practiced with the two-handed saber will know that when we're here, of course, we're going to both pull and push. So I'm drawing in as I cut down. So it's not just left hand dead, acting as a fulcrum or an axle. I'm going to draw that in so I get more snapping power to it. But also what's really important, I think this is the kind of thing that generally missed in forms today, is that I turn. From here, there'll be a tendency to cut down straight in. And you can see here, my blade is very thin, it's hard to see. But if I have somebody coming right at me, probably thrusting into the soft part of my body with a bayonet, right? You can think, okay, they're going to be aiming here, right? Maybe they're going to go to the chest, but certainly generally aiming for the torso. If I cut straight down like this into somebody who has a longer weapon, well, he's just going to stab me long before my blade gets anywhere near him. I'm going to be looking, obviously, to cut that front hand, but also as I come in, if I cut down, he's in on me, right? Heart is right here. I could die very quickly. So what I want to do is cut across and down at that diagonal. And your timing may be off. Imagine a lot of young soldiers on the battlefield for the first time, or even experienced soldiers. You have somebody running at you with a bayonet, or even a close, maybe he doesn't have a run. That has got to really be unnerving, let's say. If I cut across this way, you have the hardwood stock, and of course the rifle barrel. I'm going to at very least hit it out offline, right? So if I don't get all the way down from my ready position, remember here I'm going to take a small step forward and I'm cutting in down and across. So if I hit that, my timing's off, and I hit a little bit early, I'm going to hit on the side of that weapon, push it offline a little bit, and then hopefully continue sliding down the hardwood stock or sliding down the barrel, right, glancing off of it into the front hand, the left hand of my Duifang. So obviously if I cut down into the hand there, he's going to lose fingers and he'll drop his rifle, and that's that, okay? So think about how this cut's coming from our ready position. We have to step in, stepping in at the same time cutting, pushing off that back leg and cutting across at the diagonal like this. And I'm cutting to see to the outside of my body. I'm not even cutting just to my shoulder. I'm going to cut, line up a little better with the camera here. I'm going to cut right across to just outside my body. Okay? So very simply, this is P Dao Shi. So if we're here, starting from our gripping the sword position, come up to attention, stomp, small step. So my left foot's forward here, stepping in with the left and cutting down across, and I'm pushing off my back leg. So you can see the same, very similar postures and position to what we see in our Miao Dao and Dan Dao traditions. Ready? Body's upright, turning on the heel, stomp with the right, small step with the left, stepping in with that left, and see that's a small step because I can only get in so far there, and cut across. Okay? And you see I'm cutting relatively low here because I want to push that rifle offline so I don't get skewered. Eyes and head are up, right? Turn on the heel, stomp with the right, small step, let loose, get in your legs here, step with that left, come in and cut down, right? Now, one thing that Jin mentions quite frequently in the manual here and there, something I think anybody training here is familiar with this, that front heel's got to be up and loose. So when we step into this position, into our ready position, so we turn, we're at attention here, and then stomp and step here. My heel's slightly off the ground, right? It's not there. And that makes it a little more lively for my small half step in and that cut down across for my P cut. And I'm leaning into it a little bit. See, that is just like our postures. We have a meow down, down, down. Okay, ready? Eyes and head up. Turn on the heel. Stomp, step. Small step as you cut across, pushing out of the rear. And as a push-pull, pulling back with the left, pushing down with the front, right. He often refers to that as the tiger's mouth, right? This is, hand position like this is a tiger's mouth. Okay, ready? Eyes and head up. Breathing in dantian. And turn on the heel. Stomp, small step, nice and springy in your legs, ready to move. And small step in, cut down. Okay, now the next move here he calls gua, hanging, the pulling back, deflecting. So first thing I know, for those who've studied Daofa, don't confuse this with the gua, which is the shaving up. The same word for gua for shaving if you shave your whiskers. This is gua, which means to hang. It's a little bit of an archaic term. Gua can mean like if you hang up your coat on a hook, something like that. So it's hanging, and this is using the back of the blade. So remember, this is at a period where, you know, it's into modern, or we can think of as modern, military times with rifles, bayonets. Swords are not in widespread use, and I'm not going to be so much. Sometimes he'll deflect with the edge, when I more typically, with traditional swordsmanship, I would parry with the flat of my blade, and deflect and come back in. Sometimes he'll use his edge, but I'm dealing with a rifle stock, not another sword. Here, likewise, he's using that back edge to deflect. I think you might even call this more of a parry. So I'm coming from having cut across and back. And again here, that heel is up. So we'll think about this, and don't forget this in this series, there's 2 parts, 2 sessions for each. In the next session, we'll be looking at the applications, but I'll do that, demonstrate those with a partner. From this P cut, I'm coming back across this way, hitting that out, and my heel is up. All right, so it's a very simple movement. Likewise, I'm still just as I use 2 hands to cut down, I use 2 hands, turn of the waist, pop, hit that back off target. So I'm here, eyes and head up, turn out, stomp, small step in for the P cut, and then gua, pull back, hang. And my sword is straight upright, okay? So you can imagine if I'm here from my ready position, I've stepped in, cut across. If I've hit the weapon down, or I missed, or he's come underneath, circled this way with the bayonet to come back into my center, right? Right there, boom, I've cut across. So I'm open, he comes to my center, anywhere on that center, pull back, and be ready for another quick counter cut. In the form, we're going to go to another movement. We'll do one more in this session, but that hang, he says, of course, ready for a quick counter cut back into the arms or to the head of the body. Okay, so putting it all together, eyes and head up, feet are parallel, turning on the heel, waist to the diagonal, stomp, small step, left foot is forward, stepping in with the left, cut across, P dao shi, P cut, gua, pulling back, and I draw my foot in, heels up, ready for another quick counter cut. Ready? Turn on the heel, stomp, small step with the left, P cut, draw back in, gua, hanging, weights sinking back into my right leg. So here, feet are parallel, eyes and head up, and come to attention. Remember, this is like, he talks about this like when a soldier says, right shoulder arms, and you put your rifle up, just like that. So I'm turning, I'm getting ready, stomp, small step in with the left as you P cut down diagonally across, drawing back, gua, sword is upright, okay? And ready from that gua position, you think, okay, if I've just deflected, boom, quick counter cut back to his arm, or if it's coming deep, all the way into the neck collarbone. These are good targets. Okay, ready? Eyes and head are up. And turn, stomp, step, small step in, gua back. Okay, let's do 2 more, and then we're going to add, these are what I wanted to cover for our first lesson. I'm going to give you a little preview, a little extra for looking at the next lesson, okay? So far we had wo, grip, yu bei shi, pi, and gua, and we're going to look at zhan. Okay, 2 more times. Let's do this at a slight angle, eyes and head up, turn the waist, turning on the heel, stomp, step, half step with the left, back with the gua, ready to countercut. And 1 more time, let's look at it from the rear view here. Eyes and head up. Remember, blade is 45 degrees to the ground. Don't let that droop down. If you get tired, still keep it ready. Turning on the heel, stomp, step, half step in, back with your gua. Remember, here, your front heel is free. All right, so one more movement. We're going to repeat this next time. So if it's a little too much, don't worry about it. We're going to get it to it next time, next session. This is the zhan. This is an example of what I said earlier, where he is perhaps not using the standardized terms. Zhan means literally to cut. Sometimes you could also translate it as chop. Has a lot of different uses. I would say this is more typically what we would probably call a P cut. If it was saber, you might call it a kan cut. It's a stepping with a stealing step that we've used quite frequently in our jianfa, so I think most people in the academy should be pretty familiar with it. Zhan, interestingly, can also be used to mean to behead. So it's a more powerful cutting through kind of cut, and that's probably what he wants to emphasize here. We had this P cut down, that's kind of a more sharper kind of cut. We came back with this gua, and now we're going to turn, deflect, come over and stealing step down for this zhan, 2-handed cut. So I think what he's probably, the reason he chose to use zhan for the name of this movement or this posture is because it's a very heavy kind of cut. So from our, having drawn back into our gua, we're going to rotate that front foot, come down, again using the back of the blade to deflect, step up with the right, left foot goes behind, and you cut down, right? And this is a movement we have nearly exactly the same movement. You could say essentially the same in our Yangjian Michuan Taiji Jian form. So this is, stealing step is a fairly standard component in Chinese martial arts, right? So put it all together. Let's go nice and slow. Eyes and head up, rotating on the right heel, stomping back with the right, little step up with the left, step in with the left, P cut down, draw the left back, heel off the ground. My waist is to the diagonal here. Turning, deflecting with the back of the blade, step in with the right, step around with the left, stealing step in and cut down. Right, and here's how he illustrates it in his manual. About this level, many modern forms will go all the way to the ground. And you can see clearly this is the practical techniques of the Dadao, or practical Dadao. He's not showing you the fancier, more athletic movements, but training troops to right away go and use it. All right, let's take a look at it here on the angle. Eyes and head up, turn on the heel, stomp back with the right, step up with the left, small step in with the left, cutting diagonally across for that P cut, snapping the blade back for a gua. Back of the blade was used for the deflection there. Going to come around in front, circling around for that cut. So turning on the heel, deflecting, step in with the right, turn that heel a little bit, cut down, boom, and there's your zhan. Okay? All right, 2 more times, then we'll take a break. We'll see what questions there are. Ready? Turn on the heel, stomp, step, small step in, draw back, front heel's off the ground, deflect, turning, step 1, 2, stealing, step in, and cut down. Remember, this zhan is really a preview of what we're going to do next time. eyes and head up, turn on the heel, stomp back with the right, small step to the left. Make sure you're really sunk in your legs, ready to go. Got a Duifang coming at you with a bayonet here. Intercept that thrust, cutting down, pushing out of your rear leg as you cut across diagonally. Snap back with a gua deflection. Turn, deflect, step up, step in, and cut down. Okay, that's a nice little chunk of the form. I said you can leave that last move off, the John, for next time. I just wanted to give you a little preview. Questions?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that, the last move, or how far diagonal are we moving of that?
The question is on the last move, on the John, how much are moving to the diagonal? Just a little bit. This is more linear. This form is very linear, as the Miao Dao and Dandao forms are. From my gua here, as I deflect, I'm going to step up, and I'm just going a little bit to the side, and of course my cut's going to come down. But we'll get into this one in greater detail next time. But that is just, I would say, an advancing stealing step, not a circular or flanking kind of stealing step.
So like about 20 degrees or so?
Yes, about 20 degrees would be about right. Just enough to slip behind your sword. 20 to 30 degrees.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? We will definitely get into that one. You'll see applications more of it. It'll make more sense as well.
The deflection that you did, can we see that from the front?
The gua deflection?
Yeah.
So the gua deflection is our second movement of the form. I've cut across here and I'm snapping it back this way. So you can imagine that bayonet's coming right at you. Catch it with the back of your blade here and pull it and hit it to the side. So it's a very smart, crisp movement, having cut down, back this way, right? Cut in, boom, back like this. And using both hands to get that snap. So this is...
Second deflection?
Then, the next deflection from there is going to be this way, circular. So it's going to hit this way and come around and cut down. So that's generally what we would call a jiao deflection. He uses that term elsewhere in the form in a different sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, excellent. Next session, we'll look at the application of all these movements. Thanks, everybody. Stay strong. 再见.